focus on breaking humans first.
Ripping and tearing should come naturally to most people who've played a Doom game before, but Doom the Dark Ages is a little bit different to previous titles in the series. This means that, Doom veteran or not, you're probably going to need some guidance on how to make the most out of the game's new tools of destruction and their multiple methods of monster murder. But that's where I, Eurogamer's Ian Higton, come in, as I have 10 tips here that aim to help beginners and veterans alike rip and or tear, but preferably both. One of the most notable changes to Doom's combat in the Dark Ages is the shield, which will never leave your side once you get it. Well, except for when you throw it, of course, but we'll talk about that one in the next point. You can raise the shield to block enemy fire and defend yourself from the literal fire that spews from traps in certain levels. Just be aware it can only block so many hits before breaking, and then you'll need to wait for a cooldown before you can use it again. The other maneuver you need to remember is the shield charge. By holding down the back left shoulder button or right mouse button, you can target an enemy from a considerable distance away, and then shoot yourself right up into their face to smash their teeth right down the back of their neck. There are many uses for this technique other than teeth smashing, of course. You could use it to close the gap for a melee attack or a close-range shotgun blast. You could use it to move vertically if the enemy is perched above you, or to deal a bunch of splash damage to a group of fodder enemies and regain some health. Hell, you could even use it defensively as a way to disengage from a losing fight if you really want. But that's not a very Doom way of doing things, is it? So don't do that. Now, let's talk about tossing your shield at a distant enemy. By default, your shield will kill the weakest demons in one hit, and it can tear through multiple targets if you aim correctly. And it'll even deal more damage when it's on its way back to your hand. Throwing your shield can also destroy enemy armor and shields once they've been heated up by an energy weapon. More on those in a moment. Much like the shield charge, this has a shockwave effect that can take out whole rows of shielded enemies, and it feels so satisfying every time. You can also throw your shield at larger demons, which will temporarily stun them. This is especially important to stop enemies like the Arachnotrons that will otherwise constantly pepper you from afar with unparryable bullets. Just be aware that this takes the shield out of your control unless you summon it back with a button press. Timing matters, but letting your shield go for a moment to keep a stronger enemy occupied can give you a moment to clear out the cannon fodder. Still sticking with the shield here, we need to talk about parries. This is the biggest change in Doom the Dark Ages. When a green-coloured energy blast comes your way, you can raise your shield just before getting hit to send it right back at the enemy. This deals big damage and interrupts their attacks, opening them up for a whole lot of hurt. Note that you don't even have to aim the reflected projectile, it will automatically go right back to the demon that fired it. Also, don't be afraid of the bullet patterns your enemies fire off. Your best bet is to stand firm and parry back as many as you can, and make sure to make this a habit early on. Upgrading the shield can give parries a shockwave of their own, and you already know how powerful these can be, so make sure you do that as soon as possible. Once you start unlocking shield runes, you'll also get additional buffs that give you even more reason to parry as often as possible. Parries are also the main strategy for taking down champion-level demons. You can wear down these bosses with regular gunfire, but it's much more difficult to dodge their long-range attacks than it is to parry their close-range ones. Basically, parrying as much as possible is the best way to drain their stamina meter, and when that's drained, it will let you do big damage while they recover. Melee attacks aren't a new thing in this Doom game, but they do work differently. They operate on a cooldown, so you can't just spam punches against your opponents. You can also pick up melee ammo, which sounds funny, but it instantly reloads a melee attack without waiting on the cooldown. So that's not funny, that's actually quite useful. Meleeing an enemy makes them drop gun ammo, so it's worth trading punches pretty frequently. Don't let limited melee ammo or cooldowns scare you away from using melee strikes though. It is a resource that's meant to be spent, and they don't have to be saved for special occasions. That said, it's good to use the melee weapon that best suits your playstyle. You'll pick up a few on your journey. For example, the gauntlet you initially get has a shorter cooldown and is meant for one-on-one fights. The flail, which you'll pick up later, is better for crowd control, and stop me if you've heard this one before, but it also sends out a shockwave that damages nearby enemies on impact. The trade-off here though is that it has a much longer cooldown time. Okay, we know why you're playing Doom. You want to shoot a bunch of cool guns at scary monsters. So go for it. The Dark Ages lets you lean on the guns you like best, but you still need to be aware of the differences between your guns. For example, plasma weapons like the Accelerator and Cycler are best for overloading the enemy's energy shields or heating up their armour. On the flip side, unarmoured enemies are going to be more susceptible to the piercing shots of the Shredder or Impaler and the close-range blasts of your shotguns. It's good to flip between all your guns depending on the situation, and the UI makes it really easy to see how much ammo you have left. The literal number is there in the weapon wheel, but if you're not sure if that number is high or low for that particular weapon, look at the wedge on the wheel itself. The fuller that wedge is, the more ammo you actually have for that individual gun. So as you can see here, the shotgun has about half the amount of ammo compared to the others. In the same vein, pay attention to the range and bullet patterns of your guns. Some of these are self-explanatory. The combat shotgun and super shotgun are meant for getting up close and personal, while the Impaler fires deadly spike ammo in a long-range arc. Keep these in mind as you're fighting so you don't waste ammo, even if there is a lot of it lying around. Some guns are better for crowd control though. The aforementioned Pulverizer fires a wide horizontal sheet of bullets, which can chew right through rows of weaker demons. Once upgraded, the chain shot lets off a good old-fashioned shockwave when it connects, hitting extra enemies around your target. Then you have the Rocket Launcher, the rare gun that offers both splash damage and range thanks to its explosive shot. Your best bet is to spend time with each new gun when you get it, so you know the best time to use it later on. Being aggressive is the best way to play Doom, and in fact, being low on health is the time to go even harder. By default, enemies drop more health orbs when your health is low, so this is the ideal time to go ripping and tearing. Just remember this simple rhyme in these circumstances. Don't go retreating, or you'll get a massive beating. As you upgrade your guns, you can also increase the amount of shields and armor that enemies drop when killed. So ignore what your yoga teacher says, because being aggressive is key. If you find yourself needing more health, you'll need to track down some of the tougher demons. Beating a leader, indicated by a blue, green or yellow orb above their head, will reward you with upgrades to the Sentinel himself. You'll see these marked on the map screen checklist. Blue orbs mean more health, green gives more shields, and yellow is for increased ammo. Many of these fights are optional or found in secret areas, but you really shouldn't skip them. Doom gives you a lot of tools to win the fight, but you should still give yourself as many advantages as possible. Boosting your Sentinel's stats is the best way to do that.
We can't stop it now. How long do we have?
These tips have been focused on boots on the ground combat so far, but I want to take a moment to talk about mechs. The Atlan is a blast to control in this game, but as you may expect, it plays entirely differently to the Doomslayer himself. Taking down the kaiju-sized demons revolves around combos. As you punch, you'll fill a meter, building towards an area of effect stomp or a sucker punch finisher. The goal is to maintain that combo because if you get hit, you'll have to start filling the meter again from scratch. Make sure you're dodging the enemy's attacks and don't bother with the stomp unless it's more than a one-on-one fight. Keep dodging even when you pick up your massive mech gun because perfect dodges will charge that up for even more damage. Finally, know that everything we've talked about so far can be tweaked in the game's difficulty and accessibility menus. There are a ton of options here, from extending the parry window to slowing down or speeding up enemy projectiles. Colorblind folks will also be happy to know that you can change the colours of parryable attacks and the in-game map. There's no shame in adjusting these settings or dropping the difficulty if that's what you need to enjoy the game. As long as you're taking down those demons, that is all that matters. And talking of things that matter, now is a great time to score some incredible Xbox games through Humble. The Xbox Game Studios Publisher Bundle is live now through to May the 23rd, and it's packed with hits. Pay as little as £3.90 to unlock Broken Age, Sunset Overdrive and Battletoads, or pay £7.80 or more to get all of those games, plus Wasteland 3, Quantum Break, As Dusk Falls, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Age of Empires Definitive Edition. Every purchase supports Gameheads, a non-profit helping train the next generation of game developers from underserved communities. Whether you're building your backlog or discovering something new, now is the perfect time to grab these Xbox classics and give back.